I'm Greg Hunter. Welcome to USAWatchdog.com. Well, last week, the Federal Reserve made its announcement, the big head fake about interest rates. And no, they're not raising rates. Not only that, but they also hinted at more QE and also negative rates while they were saying they may raise rates in December. What? To explain it all, I have Bill Holter from JS Mindset and the Holter-Sinclair collaboration. Bill Holter, thank you for joining us today on USAWatchdog.com. What is going on with the Fed and the whole world giving it a no confidence vote in Asia, Europe, US? Boom, boom, boom.
I said, I've written for months now that if we had an increase in interest rates, my opinion is the markets will close within 2 weeks. I don't think there's any way the Fed can tighten. It's been a bluff. They did hint at QE, more QE. You very well may see QE come out of China because they're imploding. But that's where this is going. This is going to go, the next move is going to go toward pouring more liquidity into the system. They cannot tighten.
Well, that's what it looks like, and also the hints on the dot plot. Looks like there at least one Fed, governors. Yeah, we need to go negative. I mean, is that
right.
what am I reading? Is the world reading that right? That they're thinking about A, more money printing, and B, negative interest rates?
That's the fact. That's correct. The Fed realizes they don't have a recovery, much less an expansion. By now, we should have been in expansion. We should have reached what they call the escape velocity. The global economy. Just look at what's going on with trade. Trade is the one indicator that you can look at, and it tells you what's going on. Trade is slowing. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, and that means global GDP is slowing. The numbers that we're getting out of Washington, the BLS, it's all bull. It's all manufactured statistics, information. The economy right now is probably contracting, so there's just no way they can tighten. Negative interest rates. Why would they even talk about that? Why would that come out of the other side of their mouth if they were actually thinking about tightening? That was like a trial balloon.
Oh, so you think? So I mean, that's the thing. They at one they're talking about raising rates maybe in December, and then they're talking about negative interest rates and more QE. I mean, what? Explain that to me.
It doesn't make any sense. I can't really explain it to you, other than the fact that they know what's really going on. They know that they need to increase. They need to do another QE. They know that's what they need to do. But they know if they do that, then they've lost all credibility. And talking about raising interest rates is to try to gain some credibility. But this was the 55th, I believe, Fed meeting since they've done any tightening. 55 meetings now.
80 months. That's what I had. I had David Stockman. He says 80 months of 0% interest rates, and heck, we're not only going to get zero. It looks like it appears we're going to get negative rates. Where you deposit money and they take money from you for using their bank.
Right. What kind of credibility is that? What kind of monetary policy is that? That's ridiculous. They've lost control. And yesterday or last week's discussion by Yellen afterwards shows that they have lost control. And Coach Lakota comes on and talks about 0% interest rates. You can't say, well, we're going to go left, we're going to go right, we're going to go backwards, we're going to go forwards. What are they going to do? They don't have a clue. Whatever they do is wrong.
Well, they basically, if you discount that we're going to raise rates in December, which I think is goofy, right. Then they have laid out a path, correct? I mean, they are dovish. And
that's correct.
Gold and silver they're already in tight supply. What's going on with gold and silver?
Greg, we'll get to that in a second. I do want to mention what I just said. Whatever the Fed does is wrong. The reason I say that because no matter what they do, they can't fix what they've already done. There is no policy at this point that can repair where we are at this point as far as debt ratios, derivatives outstanding, the money supply is exploding. Nothing that they do now can fix it. The only thing that remains is a reset. As far as gold and silver are concerned, yes, they're very tight. Gold is in backwardation. Silver is in backwardation. Silver on the retail level is in very, very tight supply. You look around, the Canadian Mint has ceased making or delivering maples. The U.S. Mint is putting on ration. They're rationing their dealers. There's anywhere up to a 6-week wait for eagles.
Hold on, I just want to make one point. This was all going on when people, I mean, they had newspaper articles. I don't know if this was a PSYOP job or whatever. Newspaper articles, CNN, Financial Times. So rates, it wouldn't be so bad if they raised rates. Oh, the economy will be okay. Oh, raising rates is a good thing. I mean, I know you're laughing, but this is like a PSYOP job, right? The World Bank telling the Fed and publicly, oh, it's going to create turmoil and panic. They can't call them. Christine Lagarde can't pick up the phone. Hey, Janet, don't raise rates. You got to make public statements. And then what? Huh? They all know what's going on. So here's my question. So if the supplies were so tight leading up to this announcement last week, what is this dovish announcement of negative interest rates and more QE going to do for the gold and silver markets?
Well, you very well could see gold and silver go no offer. In other words, nobody will want to sell. And you'll see an absolute flood, not just in the U.S., but you'll see a flood worldwide of trying to get out of the system. That's your way out of the system, is to have gold and silver delivered to yourself.
And so do you think that we could get to a situation where we're going to hear soon either the LBMA or COMEX say, that's it, we're paying in cash, we have no more gold? I mean, handicap that for us. Tell us what's going on in the background with all the gold coming out of the system. Are we going to get a point where they're going to say, that's it, we're out?
Right now, the COMEX has just over 5 tons of gold in the registered category. In other words, it's registered for delivery. That's about 175 million with a lowercase m. I mean, that's puny. If you look at JP Morgan, what they have in their registered vault, in other words, that's for their that's the dealer account. They have 10,700 ounces, a third of a ton. It's nothing. It's $10 million, $12 million, something like that. It's nothing. And this past week, there was somewhat of a firestorm. I was even attacked by Bron Suchecki in an article for mentioning that the vault numbers are drying up. And it's like there was a coordinated effort. You had Jeff Christian come out. I believe Kitco came out with an article. Oh, don't worry about the vault supplies. They're adequate. They're not adequate. What they're saying is that, oh, well, no problem. There's X amount in the eligible side, and we'll just slap some receipts on them, and we'll change them to registered. It doesn't work that way. Eligible gold, that's supposedly customer gold. And unless the customer wants to deliver it out, it's not going to go into the registered category.
So you're saying that these pool accounts, you wrote an article, is your pool full? You're saying, incidentally, Bron made an apology to you, which tells me, whoa, he backed way down because, Bill, you're not a liar. You're an analyst. You've got Wall Street experience. You're an expert in gold. And I know your response to him was just logic, and he backed down. So, wow. But you're saying that these pool accounts, they don't have the gold in it they say they are, and they're selling customer gold is what you suspect.
Well, you need to make a distinction. We were just talking about COMEX, and we were talking about the COMEX vaults. As far as pool accounts go, there are allocated pool accounts and unallocated pool accounts. It's my opinion, and I can tell you it's Jim Sinclair's opinion, because we had a discussion about this last Wednesday, I guess the day I sent the article out, Is Your Pool Full? We both are of the opinion that this is going to become one of the biggest frauds and scandals in history.
Lay it out for me. They just don't have the gold. They sold people's gold. Lay it out for me.
It's possible they didn't even buy the gold in the first place. For instance, the latest in Austin was Bullion. I think it was Bullion Direct, if I'm not mistaken. They left. They had supposedly $200 to $300 million worth of gold vaulted for customers. They didn't have any of it, and they've declared bankruptcy. They've closed. I mean, you've had in the last 12 months, I think you've had three dealers like that close up, and I think that's going to be a huge scandal. Is that people hold receipts saying you own X amount of ounces of gold or X amount of ounces of silver, and that gold or silver doesn't exist. And what leads us to that conclusion is that year after year, there's more demand than there is actual production. But yet the price has gone down for the last 3 or 4 years. How's that possible? If there's more demand than there is supply, the price went down. Well, what that tells you is that added supply has covertly come from somewhere. And that somewhere can only be where it had been previously, in vaults.
You think they sold off people's gold?
Yeah.
You think they just stole the gold, sold it off to suppress the price? Is that the deal, basically?
That's my opinion, yes.
So they took people's gold, sold it into the market, and they've been doing this for years so they can suppress the price, and nobody goes and looks at their gold, so they think, oh, I've got, 1,000 ounces of gold, or, $2 million or whatever they have vaulted.
Right, that's part of the story. The other part of the story is, and Jeffrey Christian admitted this himself, and we thank him for at least admitting, he said that the LBMA, he called it the physical market, is 100 to 1. In other words, there's 100 pieces of paper for every 1 real ounce. And it's the fractional reserve nature of COMEX, of LBMA, of the gold market that is ultimately what's going to crack it up, because you've got over, well, the numbers on COMEX, if you look at the amount of contracts to registered, it's over 200 to 1.
Wait, stop for a minute. 200 paper ounces in demand for 1 ounce sitting at COMEX. That's what you're telling me?
Well, you used the word demand. It's 200 paper ounces in contractual obligations.
Which is paper shorting. It's fraud.
Right.
I mean,
exactly.
Aren't we talking about massive fraud?
Well, and the apologists have come out and said, oh, don't worry about it, because very rarely does more than 1% of the contracts ever actually demand delivery. Well, if you look the past week, there was an interview done of Kyle Bass, and he was responsible for getting the University of Texas to repatriate $1 billion worth of gold. And his reasoning was, he went to the COMEX, he talked to them, and he asked them, well, what happens if 4% decide they want their gold? And the response was, oh, well, that will never happen. It's usually only about 1%. And
yeah, Lehman Brothers would never go under either. Yeah, never go under.
Well, and another example, and a lot of people, even I forgot about this when I wrote the article. If you go back to, I think it was 2009 or 10, something like that, Morgan Stanley paid, for them it would be considered a wrist slap fine, but they were charging customers to store silver. They were charging them full rates to store silver but there was no silver. There was no silver whatsoever. So they were charging them to store air, and because they had enough money to make the customers whole, it wasn't a huge scandal, because they were able to give paper in place of what the customers thought was silver.
You're thinking that this is going to get, I mean, I just had David Stockman on, former White House budget director, and he says that these bonds, I mean, this is going to daisy chain around the planet, and any money in these bonds, and any of these bonds, and then not just corporate bonds, but sovereign bonds, they're all going to get impaired. He doesn't think the treasuries are going to get impaired, though. I think if everything will get impaired, so like subprime will be contained, and listen, it'll affect everything. Aren't all these bonds going to get impaired, including U.S. treasuries?
Yeah, I think all debt will be impaired. And
what does the reset look like? You said, is that part of the reset when the debt gets impaired?
Right. A reset, I believe, is going to be a shutdown of the system. Everything will stop. When you're talking about bonds being impaired, you're probably going to see that start or begin in the derivatives market. The derivatives are the tail that has been wagging the dog for years. Derivatives have been used. If they can put $1 down and control $100, you can pretty much control the price of an asset, and that's what they've done. They've supported stocks. They've pushed interest rates down, supported bonds. They've suppressed gold and silver. They were able to paint a picture using derivatives of 100 to 1 or more of leverage. And when they lose control, that derivatives chain between bank A, B, all the way through Z is going to snap. And when it snaps, the music stops. Everything's going to stop. And I don't think it's going to take, once something actually does break, I don't think it takes much more than 48 hours for you to wake up in the morning and nothing works. Your credit card doesn't work. Your debit card doesn't work. You go to your bank, the ATM doesn't work. Nothing's going to work. The entire financial system will shut down. And the reset will be the reopening. It's not the closure that'll kill you. It's going to be the reopening. The reopening, everything is going to be revalued. And how long it will take to reopen, I have no idea. It could be a week, 2 weeks. It could be a month, 2 months. It could be 6 months. Who knows? But the financial landscape is going to look entirely different. Values will be unrecognizable.
So if you have $100,000 in the bank on Friday, and the reset happens in 3 weeks later or whatever, how much do you think that's going to be worth?
Well, who knows?
$10,000? Would we have a 90% haircut?
Yeah, let's say the banks go through bail-ins, and you get a 70% haircut on the bail-in. And you get a 50% drop in the value of the dollar. Now, you get $15,000 worth of buying power.
Wow. So it could be severe.
It's
in other words, between the value, the drop in the dollar and the bail-in, you might take an 85% hit on 85-cent hit on every dollar you have in the bank.
It's possible.
What about people saying, well, the insurance limits, I have under the limits? You're laughing. Explain why you're laughing.
Well, I'm laughing because I had this conversation with the treasurer of my church, and she's telling me, oh, but it's FDIC insured. I'm like, but you don't understand. The FDIC is only an agency of a broke government. It's a broke agency of a broke government. They have, I think it's a quarter of a penny for every $100 that they insure, or something like that. It has worked because it has instilled confidence, and no one's run the banks. But when there's a real bank run, it's hopeless. It's like an ant trying to stop an elephant.
And let's get back to this dovish announcement. Isn't that going to turbocharge demand that was already in hyperdrive for gold and silver? I mean, if you wake up this morning, don't you think the phones are ringing off the hook for anybody selling metal?
I think so, yeah. the Fed being uber dovish, you also have to look toward China. China is definitely slowing down. You can see it in all their numbers. You can see it in their trade. It's obvious. You're seeing capital flight from China. China is going to have to embark on a QE of their own.
Do you think that this demand is going to send the possibility of people being out of gold, move that way up? I mean, when do you think that happens? First of all, when do you think that? Do you think let me rephrase it. I'm sorry. Do you think that we will have a time when all the dealers are going to say, "Boom, we're out," or "We're not selling"?
Absolutely. I absolutely believe that.
And with this announcement, obviously that speeds that up. When do you think that might happen? Do you think it happens before the end of this year? Before the end of this month?
It could happen. It could happen tomorrow morning. I mean, it's hard to say. What we do know is that there's a ridiculously small amount left on the COMEX. 175 million cleans out the registered category. We know that gold is in severe backwardation in London. That definitely shows that there is tightness in the physical market. If some type of event happens today, you could wake up tomorrow and all of the gold be cleaned out. And whatever's in the pipeline gets cleaned out, and there's no pipeline.
Wouldn't that be the blackest of black swans? That, no more gold, no more silver. Wouldn't that be the blackest of black swans?
Right, and then you would, of course, see gold and silver go no off, where you wouldn't have anybody selling it because you don't know what the price is. And not knowing, would you accept dollars, or would you accept euros, or would you accept anything for gold or silver? If you see where I'm going?
And now when you take a look back at what Jim Sinclair said, which I didn't think was outrageous, because I know how much leverage it's in the hundreds of trillions of, quadrillions of derivatives and debt and leverage and unbelievable crazyville. Now when you say, well, gold could be 50,000, and Bill Holter comes along and says, well, that may be ridiculously low.
That's true.
Because the money is going to go poof. I mean, what is gold worth when your money is worth less?
Well, the money goes poof. It's kind of a double or chicken or the egg type of thing. The money goes poof, but you also have the owners of silver and gold saying, hey, wait a minute. I'm not going to give you my ounces until you're going to be willing to pay me in a currency that I can trust.
Oh. And that's all part of the reset, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And what is a currency that you can trust? It's a currency that's backed by gold or silver.
Whew, boy.
You see? So there's demand for gold and silver right there.
Somebody was asking me, I was on Coast to Coast AM the other night, nice people, and somebody called in and asked me, what's it going to look like? What is it going to look like? And a lot of common, normal people, just regular folks, I'm a son of a machinist, so, I have no, upper crust, I have no pedigree, I'm a mutt. But my daddy my mama were good people, don't get me wrong. But I mean, what's it going to look like to the man on the street? I keep asking this question. A lot of people say you don't really get a good answer. I mean, it's going to be ugly. I mean, we're going to turn into the third world, aren't we?
We will have a standard of living completely unthought possible.
I mean, we're going to have people on the streets. I mean, isn't that what these FEMA camps are for? We're going to have a lot of people not be able to make their bills. And I was listening to, that there's a program out where, well, if you lose your house, you could just rent it back. I mean, isn't there going to be a mad dash for collateral?
This is not about not being able to make your bills. This is about being able to get food. If the banking system shuts down, credit shuts down. Distribution, I've said this several times in interviews, I've written about it many times. When credit shuts down, distribution shuts down. Walmart does not have little elves in the back room that make products and grow crops. big stores where everybody goes to get their food. We're no longer a farming country. These big stores get stocked up every single night. You don't see it because you're sleeping. But the average store only has food for about 2 or 3 days. So this is not going to be really an issue about you paying your bills. It's going to break down so badly, it's going to be an issue about whether or not you can get food or not.
Definitely, the gold and silver, do you think have bottom? Do you think this is the bottom? This is the bottom that they didn't want to put in. Is that right? Because do you think the manipulation is ending? Is this the bottom for gold and silver?
Yeah, it doesn't. Yes, to answer your question, yeah, I do think that they've bottomed. Can they push the price down again? Yeah, it's possible. But like you saw back in 2009, 2008, whatever it was, silver on the COMEX was trading just under $9, and to buy retail metal, you couldn't get anything under $15. So could they push gold to $900 or $1,000? Yeah, I suppose they could if they sold enough paper. But would real metal trade at that level? No, it wouldn't. We've already seen silver had pretty much a hard bottom. The premiums increased last week and the week before. The premiums increased by the amount that the paper price went down. So the physical market hit a hard bottom.
So it comes to a point where, okay, if it goes any low, we're just going to add it onto the premium. So
right,
you can't
exactly.
really get $15 silver. You can get $20 silver.
Right.
The premiums are like $5 now an ounce, aren't they, or more?
On Eagles, I believe I've seen between $5 and $6 if you can get them.
So you're around $19-20.
Close to it. Low 18s is about where the bottom was, 18 to 18.50.
With the commission.
Right, for a retail trade, that was about $18 was generally about where it bottomed out.
Jim Sinclair says that we won't get through September without a real crash. Are you in tandem with him? I know you guys work together, talk a lot together. He said that on USA Watchdog, we don't get through September without a real crash. Even if he's wrong and it's October, close enough. I mean, you think a real crash all around is coming, and it's coming soon.
Well, it's happening. If you look at what the world markets did on Friday, the world markets were hammered on Friday, the day after the Fed meeting. What this coming week is gonna have, I mean, you could have a train wreck this week. It's coming. Whether it's this week, next week, or in October, it's coming because mathematically they can't hold the system up. The system is not generating enough capital to go back into markets to hold them up naturally. They've been held up unnaturally via the plunge protection teams, etc.
Bill Holter, thank you so much. You came on at a wonderful time. I mean, you're one of our regular guests here on USAWatchdog.com. Bill Holter, JS Mindset. You also have the Holter-Sinclair collaboration. Of course, I'll link to your wonderful site over there. You guys are wonderful. Say hi to Jim Sinclair. Bill Holter, thank you for joining us today on USAWatchdog.com.
My pleasure, Greg. Thanks for having me on again.